right. Well, welcome. Happy New Year, everyone. Great to be with you. I made it within 3 minutes from the office. So I had close but no cigar. I had to pull over. But today we have a guest speaker, and it's going to be amazing. He's going to talk to you. Well, before I tell you what his topic is, one of the greatest ways to help recruit agents to build a revenue share organization is to become more valuable. Write this down. I'm going to write this down. Become more valuable than their sales manager. Become more value than their broker owner. I can't leave my broker. I love him. I love my sales manager, Coldwell Banker, Remax, or Berkshire Hathaway. And of course, they have relationships. But if you become more valuable, if you add more value, and one of the ways you do that is today's speaker, Mr. Ryan Leahy. And he does a seller financing opportunity that is brilliant, super brilliant. And so once you learn it, you could teach this to agents from Coldwell Banker, Remax, Section 21, Keller Williams, Independence, et cetera, and it's brilliant. It's kind of how to get listings sold that you can't get sold. Do you ever had a seller who's about to fire you because the home's not selling, he's frustrated, she's frustrated? Well, here's the way to get it done. So without further ado, we're going to get Ryan Leahy on here. And Leahy, and Ryan, are you there? I don't see you, but you're probably...
I sure am.
All right, take over. And you guys are in for a treat. Take notes. This is brilliant. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Brent. Happy New Year, everybody. We're really excited about this. With Brent, we are rolling out across EXP. So I have built a program. I've been a lender for the last 22 years here in Austin, Texas. And I have, was blessed to have a large team. And one of the things that we found, obviously, over the last 2 years is there's over 100 markets across the country that now have flipped into a buyer's market. And the challenge right now is in the buyer's market in particular, there's still a significant number of buyers that lack motivation. And we have listings sitting on the market longer than they've sat, obviously, for many, many years. And days on market are continuing to increase because of lack of buyer motivation. And we all know where that comes from: high interest rates. Well, when we started looking around and figuring out who has all the low interest rates, for the first time ever in history, our consumers, our sellers, have the lowest interest rates and far lower, sometimes 3% more than the banks can offer. So the 66% of all homeowners have an interest rate below 3.5%. So what we figured out how to do is, obviously, we work with agents for a living. And what we figured out how to do is, how do we help an agent have another tool other than a price drop? How do we have it, and when they're listing and marketing a property, how do we have our agents get buyers excited about their property? How do we have our agents be competitive in the marketplace and differentiate themselves while they're sitting at that dining room table trying to get the listing agreement, and the husband and wife say, well, I'm going to interview 2 or 3 other people? How do we give them a tool to where that the client that you're competing for that listing says, you know what, nobody else has talked to me about this. I'm going to go with you because of you have this program. And so we sat out and went to really do we're calling seller financing bridge loans. And what we're doing is we are showing sellers through agents that they actually have another asset other than the house. They have a below market interest rate. And that below market interest rate is worth tens of thousands, in many cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Last year, we rolled out our program after being in development for a full 8 months. We had more than 15 industry professionals, agents, and loan officers, as well as 3 law firms work on the program I'm about to show you. And we took it all the way to Washington, D.C. And we hired the attorney, engaged the attorney that specifically RESPA and Dodd-Frank hire in order to go after, obviously, real estate companies and mortgage companies. And they said, we don't see, there's nothing that you're doing here. Everything is fantastic. And literally the attorney said, go with God. This solves a lot of problems that are across the country that are coming up because of affordability. And so we are showing sellers how to take control and actually agents to be able to market their home with a far below market interest rate. Just giving the seller another option and the agent another option to attract more eyeballs on the house. Brent and I met back in Miami. He heard about the program, was really excited. We've spoken to several brokers across the country and have been invited to be main stage that you'll start seeing this roll out. We've been piloting in Austin for over 12 months now and just started taking it national as we got our national law firm in place about 5 weeks ago. So I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen here and jump into a quick presentation. This presentation is just going to be right at about 25 minutes, and we'll have some question and answers after that. Let's see here. Can everybody see the screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Okay, fantastic. So we call our program More, and it's about getting more. So what are we going to show? We're going to show listing agents how to show their sellers how to get more money out of that listing, particularly after you've generally done a price drop. So we're in Austin, we are leading the country with depreciation. For 4 years in a row, we led the country in appreciation. We now our prices have retracted more than 20 to 25%. And so we have seen a significant depreciation. So our sellers are looking to figure out how do they recapture some of that depreciation. For buyer's agents, how many of you have buyers that are sitting on the fence that have told you, hey, when rates get down into the fives again, I'll buy? Anybody have those clients sitting on the fence? Absolutely. So we with our program, we're going to help agents and sellers sell faster and buyers buy smarter. Here's a few of the situations that our program really helps address. If you have listings that are taking too long to sell and you're starting to get frustrated sellers, our program most certainly can help with this. Are you struggling to convince buyers to move forward with interest rates this high? Currently, interest rates are plus or minus 7%. And matter of fact, the sentiment is, even that came out today, that interest rates are expected to be higher for longer. So, how many of your clients said that they want to sell, but they have said they cannot afford another home at plus or minus 7%? We're going to show you how that we can help them do that and buy their next home. What if you had a marketing program that made your listing stand out, almost like a new construction where they're offering that, really below market interest rate? And that far below market interest rate is the motivating your buyers to make an offer on that listing. What if that same marketing program allowed your sellers to get more than full price? Well, welcome to More. And it's a seller bridge loan program for highly qualified buyers. So what is this? A lot of folks have said, well, Ryan, that's a fancy way of saying we're doing seller financing. Well, yes, that is one way to put it. Here's the interesting part about it. Here, a bridge loan is a very short-term loan. The target market for this, because each one of you listing agents and probably for sure listing agents get worn out by all the investors that are calling saying, oh, I'll offer 80% penny, 80 cents on the dollar, and we want to take over their 3% mortgage. That's not a good deal for your seller. What if we're going to show a seller, again, how to make a spread where they're not offering that 3% mortgage and maybe it looks like 4.99? I'm going to go into some examples, an example a little bit later. So what is the More Loan Program first? The More Loan Program is here to give you and your seller options other than a price drop, options to get more eyeballs on that listing. Because just like with any, you go ahead and put the listing out there at $650,000 to start. Do you know if that home is going to sell for $650,000? The answer is generally no. But just like as well with our program, if you add on, or what we call bolt on More, the More Loan Program, at any point in time, you can have some certain success and just attract more buyers to the table. One of the biggest things about this is remember, we're lenders. So we are absolutely making sure that the seller is not going to sell their home to somebody that's not highly qualified. Our program is designed for highly qualified sellers that are struggling to sell their home or get the value that they want, designed for highly qualified buyers that are currently sitting on the fence. The other unique part of our program, our program allows the listing to attract more buyers that are currently priced out of the market. The reason most of our buyers are saying, oh, I'll buy when rates are back in the fives. Why? Because they were looking at an $850,000 house when rates were in the fours and the threes. And now that same home, the monthly payment is a $600,000 home. So what if with our buyers program, you can go out there and get a home under contract with an interest rate in the fives with no points? More is the very first in the nation turnkey, hassle-free program that covers all aspects of the seller financing bridge loan. And we do all the education to the seller, all the education to the buyer and the buyer's agent. We do the co-marketing with you on MLS. We do the pre-qualification of the buyer so that your seller is not selling to somebody that should not be buying a home. Then we do all the legal work to make sure that it's the seller financing bridge loan is 100% legal, compliant, and enforceable. Our law firms have closed more than 25,000 transactions, seller financing bridge loans, over the last 20 years. We partnered with the 2 number 1 law firms, seller financing bridge loan law firms in the country. So we're able to utilize their expertise over all these years and bring this into the mainstream. We handle the payment management so that the buyer is making a mortgage payment to a servicing company, and that servicing company makes the payment to the current mortgage and then sends the monthly profit every single month as an automatic draft to your seller. We also handle the exit and refinance strategy. These are generally, a bridge loan is designed to be short term. Our loans generally, we usually market 3 years, but we've done them as short as 6 months and as long as 7 years. It just depends on what the buyer and the seller agree to. And we help with the structure and negotiation of that. We've been engaged more than 300 times to structure these transactions. I'm going to jump into what one scenario looks like. Now, we have these. If you hop on our website, you can take a picture of the QR code down in the bottom right. But you'll see that we've got dozens and dozens of properties, mostly all here in Central Texas, on our website, and the interest rates range. We have some sellers that have interest rates in the 2s, and they're offering an interest rate at 3.5% on their listing. We have some homes that are in the multi-million dollars. We've been engaged up to as high as $10 million on this program and as low as down to $225,000. Generally, if you have a seller, who's this a great program for? Sellers that have already bought their next home and they have their current listing on the market and they're looking at you saying, please sell my listing. I'm pulling 2 mortgages. Great program. Non-warrantable condos, another fantastic program for this. If you have investor buyers, generally investor buyers are looking at 8.5%, 9% for investment loans right now. Your investor buyers can buy these houses in the high 4s and mid 5s, depending. This seller in particular had an interest rate right at about 3%. And this is a $650,000 home. This seller in particular, we guide them so that the buyer would be putting 20% down, which is $130,000. This seller we came out with and said, look, let's market this property at 4.99%, allowing the buyer to save $676 a month on this $650,000 home. So let's talk about what are the mechanics. What does it look like? So on a $650,000 home, I'm going to increase the size there a little bit. On this $650,000 home, this seller at the top of the page is getting 20% down. Now, here's the interesting part about it. Seller financing is generally full price, or it's a highly competitive offer. So in markets like Austin, And in Central Texas, where again, you're having 20, 25% discounts. Usually what's happening is we're getting bolted on after a large majority of our houses have already been on the market 60 days. They haven't had any offers. They're bolting on more. And then we're seeing a lot of activity happen at that juncture. And so they're already have experienced 2 or 3 price drops by the time that they're coming to us. In Austin, the average list to sale price is 91.2%. So call it 91%. So after the last price cut, there's still a 9% drop from list to sale price. So we are preventing the MORE program. If this buyer wants the far below market interest rate of 4.99%, and by the way, this one was done for 3 years on a 30-year amortization. So it's a 3-year bridge loan done by the seller. This seller, after they received the down payment, they're making $823 a month on a home they already sold for a total of 3 years. This in particular, if you line this right up next to a traditional transaction with a traditional sale, over a 3-year period of time, this seller's making $66,000 more. Now, I want to pause right here for a second. The only reason your seller generally accepts a seller financing option where they are doing the bridge loan is because it's the only option that's available. It's generally the only buyer option, again, that's coming to the table, and the buyers are coming because they love that low interest rate. And it's without points. So what do we look like? What's the buyer saving here? The buyer in particular in this, because the market's right at about 7%, the buyer is saving 2 full percentage points without any additional buy down points. And that is an equal of $676 a month. How many of you have clients that would like to buy a $650,000 home or a home in their price point for significantly less money per month? So it's buying more home for less. Their closing cost savings in the whole 9 yards is $27,000 if they were going to pay discount points to even try to come close to in this case, it ended up being 5.25%, not 4.99, because we helped the seller adjust the interest rate from 4.99 to 5.25 based on the buyer's qualifications. So here's what this looks like. When we set this right up next to a traditional program, you'll see it right here. The seller, if they were to sell traditionally, after they pay realtor commissions, they would walk away with $122,000. In our program, they're still leaving some money on the table. So they get 20% down, which is $130,000, minus agent fees. They're walking away, you'll see this right here, with $85,153. Then every single month, they're paid $823 a month on a home they don't own anymore. That's $29,000 over a 3-year period of time. And then at the end of 3 years, when the buyer refinances or sells or pays it off, they're going to receive a lump sum for $74,000. Now, how do we arrive at this $74,000? This buyer left a little bit of equity in the home. They weren't able to take it all off the table, meaning this 122 minus 85 is $37,000. So the seller left $37,000 of equity in this home. We do have scenarios where sellers get all their equity, but this deal came together with $37,000 left in the property. Here's what's also interesting. Remember when you own a rental property and you rent your home, the renter is doing what to your current mortgage? They're paying down your current mortgage, right? Well, guess what? The underlying loan does not go away. This is not an assumable loan. We are taking conventional loans and doing what's called a seller financing wrap. And so that current loan stays in place. And because it's staying in place, just like with a rental property, that buyer is paying down the current loan that's in place. In this case, the numbers just happen to be, they left $37,000 of equity in the home, and the numbers just happen to shake out ironically, to where the buyer, after 3 years, paid down the current loan an additional $37,000, giving that seller a total walkaway payment at the end of 3 years, $74,000. This seller in particular, I think this home started out at $699, if I remember correctly. They're picking up an additional $37,000 in equity plus $29,000 in cash flow for an extra $66,000. So my question to you is, did the seller make more than full price? The answer is absolutely they did. Did they have to wait a little bit of time? Yes. In this scenario, it's 3 years. But they made $66,000 or 35% more than full price, selling to a highly qualified buyer. These are not buyers that are putting 10% down. These are not buyers that have shaky job history. These are not buyers that don't have reserves over and above down payment. Because guess what? When those buyers actually come in, great news for you and your seller. We've converted more than 50% of all the closings that we've had, more than 50% of them, we convert to a traditional transaction because that buyer is not strong enough for us to recommend a seller financing transaction to you and your seller. We want to make sure that that buyer is going to be aces. And if not, we're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller and listing agent, by the way, every listing agent or the listing agent must be on every single call. We will not do business with any buyers or sellers unless they are represented. This is a program for agents only. And so this is designed specifically for your clients. So you're on the call with us and we're saying, gosh, they just don't have the reserves after down payment. Yes, they can put $130,000 down, but they've got 10 grand left in the bank after doing that. And you know what? When life happens, which life always happens, they don't have the cash reserves in order to make sure that you're not going to be taking the home back, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So one of the things that we would recommend, and it is up to you, you could still do the bridge loan if you want. But what we would recommend in this case, since the buyer's coming in at full price, why don't we just give them some seller concessions and do a 2-1 buy down or a permanent buy down and let us go back to them with a traditional loan offer of a 30-year fixed mortgage. And which brings this whole thing full circle to being a marketing program, and your seller ended up selling the home traditionally. Does that make sense? Let me zoom out so I can get to the next slide. Again, who's a good candidate for more? Sellers that have already bought their next home and have a departure residence that they're trying to sell, or that you're trying to sell. Non-warrantable condos, interest rates for non-warrantable condos are very high, and this gives that condo a great opportunity to stand out amongst all the other condos in that building or in that complex because it has such a lower interest rate. Deals that blow up at closing due to minor lending issues. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've saved several transactions that literally blew up at the closing table with traditional financing with another lender. And they came to us and said, we want to put this deal back together. We still want to sell to this buyer. And we bring all that back together. And on all of those circumstances, we closed in less than 14 days on those. Sellers that have an interest rate below 4%. When you're talking to your prospective seller or your current seller, find out if they have an interest rate below 4%. This can make a lot of sense for them. If their interest rate's a little over 4%, doesn't mean that we can't do it. But if they have below an interest rate of 4%, it means that we'll be able to market a lower interest rate. Sellers that have more than 20% equity. That's also a great candidate to market the MORE program. Sellers that have their homes paid off, we work with them too. So, and then the last two, if you have investors that are looking to buy or buyers that are waiting for lower interest rates, and we can show them how to move forward to access these programs. So what's this look like in Zillow when we co-market? you'll see when we co-market with you and your seller, our flyer goes in position number 2. We've got a few different versions of the flyer that you can choose. And then you'll see here in the language, because the home hasn't sold, we put our language, our preferred language, above the agent remarks. So it's you can buy the $650,000 home for the same payment as a $551,000 home. I'm going to ask you, how many of your buyers are currently maxed out at $550,000 and they would like to buy a $650,000 home? In any price point. We've got a $2.9 million home that's the same price as a $2.4 million, a monthly payment. It's a $2.4 million home. These are fantastic ways to increase the buying power of your buyers. Heather, I'll come back to those that are raising their hand. We'll come back and do question and answer at the end if you don't mind. The seller financing success stories. Again, we've been engaged more than 300 times. We have lots and lots of success stories. Here's a few that I've chosen. On Bayshore, this seller got 100% of their equity. Here was the circumstance. This is a second home community on the water in Texas, on the ocean, matter of fact, in the bay. And this seller they wanted to sell the home. They started at $900,000. They had cut the price to $850,000. They owed $500,000 on this home at a 2.625% interest rate. They marketed the property at a 5% interest rate for $350,000 down because they needed all of their money in order to move on. They, within bolting on more, after being on the market longer than 90 days, in 42 days after bolting on more, received an offer for $350,000 down at 5%. And after they got 100% of their equity, they were still making $681 a month on a home they don't own anymore. And the agent, by the way, only had a 6-month listing. And you heard that it was on the market right around 90 days before they bolted us on. They sold the whole thing in 132 days. So got it sold 42 days after bolting us on. And again, they got every penny of their marketing. It's $581 a month. This one right here on Manchac Road, 73 days on the market before more. They went live with more, and they ended up getting a owner financing offer within 24 hours after bolting on more. And it ended up closing. This one right here, this one was a condo in particular. It blew up the day of closing due to a minor insurance issue for the master condo policy. And we were able to bring the deal back together and close in 11 days after the deal completely blew up with their lender at the day of closing. What do you do? How do you get this program engaged? How do you introduce this program? That's the great news. We handle all of the explanation for you. One of the things the only thing we ask you to do is just get us introduced. That's it. We will tee you up and make you look great, fantastic. You will be on the call. We do everything via Google Meet. It's all recorded. And so all you have to do, if you have any current listings that are sitting on the market and you would like another tool other than a price drop, here's a way to approach your seller. Is there any circumstance in which you would consider seller financing for a highly qualified buyer for a relatively short period of time if it allowed us to sell your home faster and for more money? The answer is either yes or no. If the answer is yes, great. I want to go ahead and let me send you an email introduction to one of our seller financing bridge loan specialists that will confirm if this marketing program will make sense. By the way, I do have my team on here, and I'll have them raise their hands at the end and maybe even jump in and answer some of your questions. Let's see here. Okay, so we have several different, once you sign up for more and your seller signs up for more, we will call to the buyer's agents under your reverse prospecting tab in MLS. Every single Monday, you just have to send us your listings your reverse prospecting tab. And if they have a heart or a light bulb, we will call that buyer's agent and say, by the way, were you aware that your client liked 123 Main Street? And 123 Main Street is offering a 5% interest rate with no additional points. And that can help you make this home far more affordable. And I wanted to make sure that your buyer was aware of that, or that you knew it, so you could bring to your buyer's attention. And then we will send them the flyer. At that juncture, we'll also report back to you our conversations on those heart and light bulb properties inside MLS, so that you can report back to your seller and make sure that your seller knows that you're working hard to sell their home. Our More Buyers program. So a lot of you are going, okay, well, how does this work if I have a buyer? Great question. Get them pre-approved with us, and we'll enroll them into our buyer program. And what does that look like? When your buyer heart or light bulbs a property, every single Monday morning, you email over the list. And then we will call that listing agent and say, by the way, we have a highly qualified buyer that works with Brent Gove or Courtney Twist, and they're highly qualified. We're calling to find out, would your seller, we look up their mortgage information prior to calling them, so we already know what the seller's mortgage information is. And we say, would your seller consider maybe short-term bridge loan financing for a short period of time that would be at a below market interest rate, maybe at 4.99%? And because if they're not, that's what our buyer was really interested in. They say, no, we're really not interested in doing seller financing bridge loan. Okay, well, would your seller be interested for a competitive offer? Would your seller be interested in offering seller contributions? And we're looking for a 3-2-1 buy down, which is $23,000 or $32,000 or whatever the number will be. We will already have that number known. And if the listing agent says, yeah, we'd consider something like that for a competitive offer, we will then give you a call back and say, by the way, Chris Cage, that just happens to be somebody we're working on pre-approval for right now with the More program. He's interested. This listing on 123 Main Street is interested in doing a 3-2-1 buy down or seller contributions. Would you give your buyer a call and see if they're interested in moving forward with this property? We're here to help make you look good. Now it's your job to go see if that property fits your buyer's house and those needs. Again, by partnering with More, we're here to show that you're working hard to get your buyers the right houses and help them buy more home for less. We have social media that we can help you with, co-brand all of this. We've got postcards that you could send out to targeted clients. We've got flyers that you can do. We have email templates already set up. And so that's what we're here to do. Why More? We have a proven success track record. We also have significant negotiation advantages. We've helped properties come together with skipping payments for 6 months. We've helped properties come together with interest rates that decrease or increase. We've helped properties come together. One of our $4 million properties, the buyer said, I'm not buying this home. I'm not going to pay more than 3.6 for this home. Not going to happen. Our seller said, I'm not letting the home go for less than 3.9. Well, that's a little bit of a difference, a $300,000 difference. I got with the seller and said, if you sold the home today, would you accept 3.6? He said, probably, but I'm not going to do it if I'm doing bridge loan financing. I said, okay, can I get some leeway on how to negotiate this? He said, absolutely. And we were able to negotiate. If the buyer paid off the home inside 12 months, he got it for 3.6. If he paid it off between year 2, he got it for 3.7. If he paid it off in year 3, he paid 3.9. We were able to get the transaction under contract. So we are able to get highly creative in bringing deals together. And guess who was happy on that transaction? The agents, the buyers, and the sellers. And by the way, the seller, their arbitrage from their current interest rate was $12,800 a month after receiving $1.3 million down. These are highly qualified buyers. So I want to kind of expand on that. Again, this is a turnkey solution that is designed both for your buyers and sellers. We say this is the way lending should be. Why can't your seller sell to a buyer that meets all of their criteria and then has a turnkey, hassle-free program that protects them legally and makes sure that their current loan stays in place and we handle the entire thing. And then we are the ones that keep the exit strategy in place. Meaning, what's that exit strategy? You have a highly motivated loan officer team in place trying to refinance these buyers as soon as interest rates drop. And so that's what I had for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. And what are your questions?
Wow, this was so good, you guys. So in the chat bar, you could type your questions. We'll read them. Or you could also raise your hand and come to the top. I'm going to go to Courtney. She's first that I see up there. Courtney, and then Heather, and whoever else hits the raise my hand button. Courtney, fire away.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. It's very intriguing because we've done a lot of seller financing in our area on land, but never where there's been a mortgage. So with the wraparound, do you guys have to, I'm assuming you have to get permission from the current mortgage or maybe ask them to subordinate, or how does that logistically work?
Great question, Courtney. And this is, so how a wrap traditionally works is in the deed of trust. The language states that the investor or the lender may, M-A-Y, may call the note due if the property is transferred without permission of the lender. And I'm going to expand on this a little bit. Did you know that when you move your property, you close into it in your personal name and you move it into an LLC, you actually violated the due on sale? You know, if you move it into a trust, you actually violate the due on sale. You know, and so we operate under those guidelines that the lender, by the way, over the 25,000 closed transactions that both our law firms have done, not one time, again, not once, over a 20-year period of time has the due on sale clause ever been enforced. So we have a proprietary process that, and by the way, to answer your specific question, Courtney, no, we do not get the lender's permission. And matter of fact, it's written into our documents. The seller will not call the lender and alert them that this is what they're doing if they want the transaction to move forward successfully.
Okay. And are you in California, or will you be?
We are. We have we do have a presence in California. Our law firm has closed significant transactions there. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's pull off the share so we can see a little bigger. We're all on the side.
Sorry. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it.
No worries. Because you're like a little thumbnail print. And then we're going to go to Heather Brooks. Great question, Courtney. And this is so cool. Getting creative is how you make money in real estate, guys. So Heather, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, you halfway answered my question. I was looking for marketing materials. So I prospect to luxury expireds, and currently the price point is $800,000 to about $4.5 million. So I would be interested in incorporating your product into my luxury expireds.
Absolutely. We have found that our agents are able to increase the target market significantly. We've had agents that specialize in that $650,000 price point start going after $1 million price points, because what happens, this is really cool. The higher the price point, generally those folks have really low interest rates and they have a lot of equity, which means that when they do one of our short-term bridge loans, that they're making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month in payments. And so it gets it just becomes like a screaming program for them, and for the buyers are saving $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. On that $4 million property that I was telling you about earlier, that buyer was saving $4,800 a month, and the sellers were making $12,800 a month.
Wow.
So
cool.
It's quite amazing with what we can do. We built all the proprietary calculators to go with it. We'd love to work with you, Heather. Ethan or Eric. I've got Ethan, Eric, and Nicole on here that we'll divide it up and get in touch.
I love this. By the way, thank you, Heather. That was super good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I go to Dave and Tom, David Gurwells, you didn't know I was going to do this to you. Unmute yourself real quick. He sells the high-end Hilton Head, South Carolina. He has started a real estate team, and within 2.5 years, they outsell every brokerage on Hilton Head that's been there for 50 years. And it's Dominate EXP, baby. So well done, David Gurwells. Now, you do a lot of an inexpensive home is like 1.5 million. That's like bottom feeding. And then you go up to 2.5, 3.5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, $10 million on Hilton Head. Do you see, I'm just curious, real quick, do you see where this could be a benefit for you in that market?
Yeah, I think that it's a terrific opportunity. And just like I think Heather touched on earlier about luxury expireds, I think there's a great opportunity to bolt on, as Ryan kept illustrating, an opportunity to bolt on another service, and an opportunity to bridge
Yes.
an opportunity for them. So yeah, I love this. This is really cool and innovative.
So you could sit down with someone from Compass or Sotheby's or Berkshire or an independent, say, I want to explain this to you. I want to get them on the phone with Ethan Cope. Ethan is one of the stars at More Financial Network. I want to get them on the phone. If it's a big player and you need some extra love, Ryan Leahy himself. And then I don't know who else is on here from your team. I know you said you had a few.
Eric Bennett's our VP, and Nicole Feliciano is
There's Nicole. She's waving. There she is. There's Eric. Eric, you were wearing blue. It threw me off. You're not wearing the more black. Come on, man.
I should have put the polo on. I had it on earlier, but you were special, so I went and got the button out.
All right. Thank you. Okay, I apologize. Let me get back over here. Great job. So you got people to help you. Dave Straitman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so what happens at the end of the 3 years with that balloon payment? What if the new buyer can't qualify for the mortgage if rates, go up instead of down and things get a little worse, or their credit changes or their position changes? Do they take the house back, or what provision do you have in there for that at that time?
Absolutely, Dave. I love this question. So this is what's fantastic about the program is all of the control is in the seller's hands. So the seller has a couple of different options. Remember, our company is trying to do the refinance and get them refinanced out. In the event, just like you said, Dave, they don't qualify. Seller has two options. Three options. One, they can force a sale. Or the second option, they can do what's called a renew and extend. So generally, what we recommend our sellers to do is raise the interest rate, keep the pressure on so the buyers can, the pressure's on for the buyers to continue to try to refinance and get a resolution. And we will advise the seller on our job is to provide what we call a clear line of sight to a refinance. So they can force a sale or a foreclosure. That's option number 2. And take the property back. Generally, if they take the property back, because our buyers are putting 30% down. I mean, it's Christmas came early. I hate to say it that way, but that hasn't really happened. Most of our sellers, they're not investors. So our sellers are primary residents, homeowners that just want to move on. And so, Dave, how this generally works is the seller raises the interest rate, maybe even charges a 1-point fee that they get to keep. And they will advise them on what can the client afford, and that also can keep the pressure on and help us get that refinance, right? So the higher the seller can raise the rate without crushing the buyer, so that they start missing payments and those types of things. There's a balance and there's a vector that we help that seller achieve.
Awesome.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Awesome.
And then, Dave, you asked what did you mention the 5-1 arm in place? Did you talk about that? Or that was Herb's question. Herb had a question in the chat. What if there's a 5-1 arm in place?
Great question. So we only allow the seller to do the bridge loan for the time frame that's left on the arm. So if the arm only has 18 months left, then the longest that they can do the transaction would be for 18 months. And so that's how that works. And then that frees the seller up when, let's just say Dave's circumstance, the circumstance that Dave mentioned comes up at the end of 18 months. Well, then the seller is in a position to renew and extend to wherever their arm is. So they can just press that rate up so that they're not in a negative position. So that's how we solve it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tom Costello, the floor is yours. And don't be shy if you got a question. Raise your hand.
Thank you, Brent. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate you being here. I've been studying a lot of this stuff because of Pace Morby and his creative financing stuff. I don't mean to say that if he's competition with you, but it seems like he's doing a little different than what you are. The question is regarding, several things just flew into my head, and forgive me if you said it already. I was having a little connection issues. Regarding the due on sale clause, when you said you've never had that in the 25,000 transactions you guys have been doing, is that because you've never done anything to trigger the due on sale clause, or because even though it's been triggered, you guys have never had to pay off a loan or have any negative consequences of that? Because usually lenders don't typically care as long as the payment is being made, and as long as everything's good, they don't usually put up a fuss about it. And then forgive me if you already said this, anything that we do here doesn't affect agent commission, correct? Or either on the buy side or the sell side. Am I wrong about that?
I'll start with the agent commission because we always like to talk about our pocketbooks first. Nothing affects agent commission at all. You get full boat. Whatever your commission agreement is what you get. So Pace, I'm a student of Pace's, by the way. So I took his Gator course many years when it came out, I should say. And so one of the things that, as far as the due on sale clause is concerned, we have a proprietary process that our law firms have figured out to make sure that it is structured in such a way, A, that the due on sale clause doesn't come up. And then B, if it does come up, they have a proprietary process that they know exactly how to handle it and go through that to make sure that it never gets triggered. So that's how that works. If your clients want to go deep with it, we generally will get your client on the phone with the law firm, one of the representatives of the law firm, and they can ask all the questions that they want to.
Awesome. Craig Nash, I guess you are our last question. So fire away.
My question is, do you work with builders?
Yeah, Craig, great question. If the builder owns it outright, yes. Generally, what we've found is most builders have a hard money loan or they've got a line of credit on that house. And so a lot of times that they're not in a position to do it, but absolutely, it's just it's regarding the underlying debt or that they have on that home.
Okay.
Good. Awesome meeting today, everyone. Ryan, great job. And Eric Bennett, thank you for being on. Nicole from More Financial Network and our friend Ethan Cope. Thanks, guys, for being on. So if they want to get a hold of you, Ryan, we're going to this will be recorded up on the Brent Gove YouTube, so you can all watch this again. I recommend you watch it again 2 or 3 times. Become an expert. And then how do they reach you, Ryan, if they want to go, I have some clients, I have some listings that I think qualify. What's their next step?
Their next step is go to the website, More Seller Financing. And then just click if you're a buyer, seller, or agent. And then either Ethan, Eric, Nicole, myself will all reach out. The other thing that we can do, Brent, is if your team wants to share the roster of who attended, we will reach out one time. Guys, we are way too busy. We are not going to chase you. We will reach out one time. You'll have an assigned More consultant and say, hey, we're here to help you. Like Heather wanted to say, hey, I want the marketing. Well, that's generally the best way to do it. So if the team can share the roster, that'd be awesome. Go to moresellerfinancing.com. Just click on you're an agent, want to chat, boom. It'll give you the first thing that pops up is pick a time. And because it's a round robin calendar, you can basically pick immediately right then, and we'll give you a call. So we really look forward to the opportunity to work with you guys and gals.
Right on. So I'm typing that in the chat. Let's see if I spelt it all right. Moresellerfinancing.com. Let's see if it worked. Did I do that right? Does it look right?
You sure did.
It did.
All right. So that's there. And
I'm going to throw this in too.
What?
I'm going to throw this in too. If you've got some general questions on here, you can reach us at clientcare@moresellerfinancing.com.
Yep. Become an expert at this. This is going to save some listings you were going to lose. It's going to help you get some listings that you weren't going to get. And then you take this information and train your fellow agents and help them. Even if they never come to EXP, help a brother out. Help a sister out. Have love in your heart for a fellow human being. But I'm telling you what, the more you give, the more you get. The more love you give out, the more it comes back, and your revenue share organization will grow. So love you guys. We will see you all right here next Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I have a special guest speaker again, and it's going to be awesome. So we'll see you there. And then, of course, this just took the place of our Mastering Sales because it kind of was around that topic. And I think it's an agent attraction topic is because you rock and roll this thing. You'll have something to talk about. Ryan, thank you for sharing today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brent. Thanks for having us. Thanks for everybody's questions. Look forward to hearing from you. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Happy New Year. Get it.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.